Today, we are diving deep into a serious age-old question. Were biblical heroes just made-up stories? I'm going to challenge everything you thought you knew. The stories of biblical heroes like David, Abraham, and Moses have been passed down for generations, shaping the faith and traditions of millions of people around the world. These iconic figures have become synonymous with courage, wisdom, and devotion, inspiring countless works of art, literature, and music, and even movies. But have you ever stopped to think, did these heroes really exist, or are they simply symbolic representations of moral ideals? The debate about the historicity of biblical figures has been raging among scholars and theologians for centuries. On one hand, many believe that these stories are based on real events and people, with some even claiming to have identified archaeological evidence to support their existence. On the other hand, there are those who argue that these narratives are largely mythical, created to convey spiritual truths rather than historical facts. One of the main challenges in resolving this debate is the lack of concrete evidence outside of the biblical accounts themselves. Therein lies a really big problem. A lack of concrete evidence outside of the biblical accounts is troubling. While we have many ancient texts and artifacts that support the existence of certain cities, kingdoms, and events mentioned in the Bible, the specifics about individual heroes are often shrouded in mystery. Why the mystery? If they were real and authentic, there is no mystery. How is it that one can find archaeological evidence of certain ancient Egyptian pharaohs who lived thousands of years before the birth of Jesus, and the writing of the Bible and other Bible heroes? King Tut's tomb was found in 1922 and is said to be one of the most significant archaeological discoveries in the modern era. Yet we can't find Moses, Noah, Sarah, and others. Let's focus on Moses for a bit. The story of Moses, the heroic prophet who defied pharaohs, parted the Red Sea, and led his people from bondage to freedom. How could this epic tale that is so foundational to establish his existence, one who is immortalized in Scripture and even portrayed in grand Hollywood productions, really have no basis, in fact? But it does make for a great story. According to the Bible, the baby boy Moses was set afloat on the Nile River in a reed basket by his mother, who feared Pharaoh's order to kill all the firstborn boys. Now I can certainly understand a mother doing all she can to protect her child. But what mother in their right mind would place a child in a basket and then put that basket in the river, hoping and praying he wouldn't drown, but be found by someone who would protect him? As the Hollywood story goes, he was indeed found by his protector, who just happens to be, of all people, a princess, the Pharaoh's daughter. Some even say his wife. Here's where the story really takes on the Hollywood flavor. Even though Pharaoh was killing all the firstborn Israelite boys, he allows this boy to be raised in his palace and afforded all the luxuries that come with palace life. On top of that, they then unknowingly hire the adopted boy's own biological mother to look after him. I'm telling you, you can't make this stuff up. Though it seems someone certainly did make this up. Let's carry on. In this remarkable twist of fate, this future nation leader of the Hebrew Israelites grows up in the very presence of the oppressor he is to eventually overthrow. This is a classic Hollywood tale for sure. That's why there are so many movies about Moses. The Ten Commandments was first done in 1923, then redone in 1956. Moses the Lawgiver in 1974, The Prince of Egypt in 1998, Exodus, Gods and Kings in 2014. Then a Netflix docu-series, Testament, The Story of Moses, premiered in March 2024. And you see, you got to keep the story going. There is a saying that if you tell a lie long enough, it becomes the truth. To put it nicely, Joseph Goebbels, the Nazi propaganda minister, created this concept called the illusion of truth effect, where repeated claims, even false ones, become believable over time. So Moses is living this dual reality, a Hebrew by birth and prince by upbringing. It all comes to a head when, as the story goes, Moses sees an Egyptian boss beating a Hebrew slave. He loses it and kills the Egyptian out of uncontrolled emotion and is forced to flee into exile. As time passes, Moses comes across the legendary burning bush, where supposedly he hears the voice of God instructing him to go to Egypt and free his people. God empowers Moses with his brother Aaron, and finally the stage is set where Moses tells Pharaoh to let my people go. A showdown ensues, and Moses, according to the historians, then leads some 600,000 people down to the river, where they are eventually surrounded by Pharaoh's army. The magical Moses then strikes the Red Sea with his staff. The sea parts and the water becomes a solid wall, allowing 600,000 Israelites to make passage across the sea. I wonder how long that took. I guess Pharaoh and his army were so perplexed and stunned at this magical feat that they were frozen in amazement and watched 600,000 people cross the sea. Then, when all the Israelites had crossed, Pharaoh and his army decided they would cross as well. The logical question is, why didn't Pharaoh and his mighty army stop the Israelites from crossing in the first place? Maybe they tried. The story isn't very clear about it. Once Pharaoh and his army entered the sea, now in hot pursuit, the wall of water that had become a solid mass for Moses to cross once again becomes water and drowned Pharaoh and his army. This is the story we are asked to, told to, or conditioned to believe. No questions asked, just believe. I'm sorry, but I can't. Actually, I'm not sorry, I just don't believe this. Is the way it went down. Outside of scripture and imaginative Hollywood storytelling, this event leaves no trace of historical fact. None. The ancient Egyptian writings don't support it. And remember, this supposedly happened in Egypt. An event so epic in a land that has always recorded in some way or another the most important events in its history has no trace of the Moses story. Yet we have proven physical archaeological findings of so-called lesser historical men and women thousands of years older. And the story just goes on and on, from the Ten Commandments in Mount Sinai, 40 days and 40 nights, stone tablets written by the finger of God. Not to mention, after all he did, his very own people turning away from him after he freed them only to worship a golden calf. After he bashes them, he then leads them through the wilderness for 40 years. 40 years of following a man who could part the Red Sea, who God spoke to in person. A man who strikes water from a rock, brings down manna from heaven, lifts a bronze serpent to heal the sick. Yet the great Moses himself never entered the so-called Promised Land. The conclusion of this monumental story lies in the last chapter of Deuteronomy, where it is said that Moses dies atop Mount Nebo, where it is conveniently stated that no one knows where Moses is buried, which, of course, only adds to the mystery of this story. You would think a biblical figure as prominent as Moses would have more clarity. We can only wonder. I'm not going to go so far as to say these stories are lies. I think that would be disrespectful to Christians and followers of the Bible. What I am going to say, and say with authority, is that these stories are just that, stories. They are not based in historical fact. They are myths, allegories, and metaphors, and not to be taken literally. That, my friend, I have no doubt about. In the end, the question of whether biblical heroes were real or simply made-up stories is a complex and multifaceted one that may never have a definitive answer. Despite the many debates and disagreements, however, it's clear that these stories have had a profound impact on human history and continue to inspire millions of people around the world. So, what do you think? Were biblical heroes real or just made-up stories? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and be sure to like, share, and subscribe. And be sure to check out my other videos on related topics. As always, I wish you peace, love, and prosperity.